Hello, Tammy Billups. I am pinching myself. I'm literally pinching myself. Sitting here in Hong Kong, the sun hasn't risen as yet, and you are in Georgia,
Yes,
in the
yes,
United
just north of the
States.
Atlanta, Georgia area. Yes,
It's gorgeous out there, and it must be nice and crispy cool.
it is. We're expecting a big ice storm this weekend. So the whole city is practically shutting down because we don't get those, but once every, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And people don't know how to drive here in it because they don't have the trucks that go around to make the roads nice and easily to drive on. And so that's impending. So right now the city is in a state of panic. All the bread is and milk is gone.
Are you okay though? Have you stocked up?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. My
Yeah.
entire business is virtual, and I work from home, so I have no
Yeah.
problem at all.
But you've
Yeah.
stocked up with food and supplies and everything in case.
Yeah.
You
Yes,
have
because power can
one.
go out easily here. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, everyone, nurture your pet lovers, pet parents, pet guardians, pet owners. I don't know what term to use anymore. I'm still old school and I'm sticking to pet parents because my pets are my children, my babies, and I love them like you all love your pets. Today, I'm going to introduce an amazing lady, Tammy Billups. And once you listen to her, you will never look at your pet the same way again. You will literally, you are going to hear things that I thought I had known it all, but this is something totally new for me. So let me first introduce you and tell you who's Tammy Billups. Tammy Billups is an internationally recognized teacher, intuitive healer, and author whose work bridges spirituality, emotional healing, and animal human consciousness. Her teachings illuminate how animals help guide humanity toward deeper awareness, compassion, and unity. A certified interface therapist, her mission is to illuminate the evolutionary bonds between animals and their people. Tammy's also the co-creator, no, she's the creator of Animal Human Tandem Healing Sessions. She's the creator of this. Can you imagine Animal Human Tandem Healing Sessions, a groundbreaking modality that accelerates emotional, physical, and spiritual healing for both species simultaneously, honoring the deep soul contracts that unite them. You're going to hear what she means with these soul contracts. With more than 25 years of research and practice, Tammy has become a trusted voice for those seeking to understand the higher purpose embedded in every animal human relationship. Her work reveals how these partnerships serve as sacred mirrors, reflecting wounds and wisdom and guiding both toward greater wholeness. Tammy is the award winning author of 4 books, including Animal Soul Contracts and Animal Way Showers. I have ordered your books, Tammy, and especially her newest release, Your Animal, Your Soul Mirror, Healing the Emotional Wounds of Animals and Their People, both introduces groundbreaking insights and original research that uncover the hidden dynamics of shared emotional healing. Through her books, classes, and healing sessions, I'm going to put all those links here for all of you to see and then get in touch with Tammy also. Tammy empowers animal lovers to embrace the divine contracts that they share with their companions, opening pathways to inner peace, transformation, and spiritual evolution. Tammy, I have to tell you something. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for giving us your time because this is something that is a whole new concept to me. And I'll give you a little background of why when I saw your interview, I think a week ago, I said, "Oh my God, I thought I knew it all." Because I am spiritual, and since the last 35 years, I have been practicing meditation and learning from my masters at the foothills of the Himalayas, meditation and metaphysics and a lot more that you already know about. But I always knew and learned about soul contracts between humans. So I live with six wonderful doggies. And about 3 years ago, one of my beloved Gina's Yorkshire Terrier, she had transitioned. I wasn't in Hong Kong at that moment. And it was a very difficult experience. I was too far away from her. I saw it all on video. I had to make decisions far away. And then I grieved heavily, very deeply. And it lasted and it wouldn't go away. And no one could console me, no friends. And it sank into depression. So I got in touch with this incredible lady, which we just found out, you know, Kate McGann. 4 years ago, I got in touch with a pet loss grief counselor. I didn't know that existed. And I contacted her and I said, please help me because I am not the person I am anymore. And I'm grieving
Mhm.
so badly for Gina. And she helped me. And isn't this world so small? She helped me and I returned back to Hong Kong. And during that time, it was the we had the pandemic, and when you come back from overseas to Hong Kong, they you have to be in quarantine for 2 to 3 weeks. And I thought, how do I walk back into my home after this hotel? So you have to be in a hotel, and I won't see Gina anymore. So I said, my love should be bigger and always have space for more pets. So from the hotel, I called a shelter and I said, I want to adopt a doggy. And they said, sure. And they sent me a picture of two doggies. And Gina, well, I'll get there, but she sent me a picture of two doggies. And I said to her, but I just want one. She said, well, in case you change your mind and you want two, or because they're siblings. And I said, well, I will take both of them. How can I say no? And I came home and they came to me. And their names, I named them Bodhi and Moksha.
Mm, I love that.
Bodhi and Moksha. And I remember taking them to the beach. And someone said to me, oh, Nita, are these your new rescues? And I said immediately, rescues? No, I think they rescued me because that's how I've always looked at my pets, having rescued me from all the insanity and challenges that I go through. I have always looked at my pets as my emotional support. I know they're sentient beings, but I always said they've come to support me always. Now I got the birth certificate a week later to make sure to take Bodhi and Moksha to the vet and make sure they were properly vaccinated and everything. And their birth certificate said March 22, 2022. And I said, this
Mhm.
can't be for real. It was the exact day that Gina transitioned. They were born the exact day. And to top it up, they didn't come to me at 6 or 8 weeks old. By the time I got them, they were already about 6 months old. People
Mhm.
would adopt one and then change their mind. Then someone else would adopt both and change their mind. And some to the extent where the leashes and the collars were ready for them to be picked up, or one of them to be picked up. And constantly, Tammy, the person who was going to come and pick them up from the shelter and adopt them said, "Oh, we've changed our mind." And I was convinced there and then. They waited for me. They waited for me to come back to Hong Kong, get out of quarantine, and bam, they walked into my home. And I bless them, I still have them. But this thing about soul contracts is, I watched your interview 3 times and I said, I have to get Tammy. I have to speak to her because I did not know that I also have a purpose for them. I did not know that. And so
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. I'm learning new things and I'm looking at my pets now in a whole different way. So Tammy Billups, you know, welcome again.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And I have a Bodhi as well. And it's interesting because I don't want to get you off of wherever our conversation is going to go here. But fascinating is that I got two brothers and they're from the same litter as well. And I didn't want new, like I kept saying, I'm not ready. I'm still grieving. I had just lost two. And what's funny with the synchronicities between my story and yours is that I kept seeing 222 everywhere. And I was like, why am I seeing 222 everywhere? And which in numerology, those are double numbers like that, and yours are born on a 22, and it was 2022, I think you said. Anyway, there were
Yes.
lots of 22s, and I kept seeing 222, and but they kept coming to me in meditation that they were ready to be with me, and I was like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. But then I followed the lead because they were showing me sixth grade kittens. And then because I donate to different shelters, I knew that each of them had a litter of sixth grade kittens. And I felt compelled that I had to check it out. Anyway, when I adopted Bodhi and Rumi, is what I named them, I found out that they did know their birth date, and it was 222, February 22nd.
No.
And I turned, and it was kind of, I was on my way out with them even, and they said, oh, we have their birthday if you want. And I said, oh yes, that'd be great. And they said, it's 222. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is why I'm seeing the 222. So you had your number connection as well as me. So I just found
There
that fascinating.
And there's a lot of synchronicity here, Tammy. And the biggest one, even when I was taking a shower this morning, early in the morning at 4 to be ready for this interview, when you're in the shower, and I always have an intention out before have an interview, I have an intention, and I said, wow, thank you and the universe for. Now I'm looking at my pets in a complete different way. So,
Yay.
mhm. Tammy, your work blends metaphysics, healing, and animal behavior. Can you share the moment you realized that animals and humans are connected through soul contract? Tell us about that experience.
I'm trying to think if there was one moment in particular. And what's coming to mind is that because I went through this long training, many years training to learn how to help people to heal their emotional wounds and identify those through the energetic patterns, which are very predictable depending on what the emotional wound is. And I loved it because it had helped me. The same work had helped me recover because I'd gone through one of those years of 4 losses. Anyway, when I was maybe in the first or second year of my certification for people, I thought, oh, I wonder how this works on animals. And so I started at that point asking friends if I could work on their animals. And there was one friend in particular, Andrea, and she had a horse, Maxie. And Maxie, it was her, and I'm not going to remember, it's like an 18 syllable word for the type of ailment that Maxie had. But the vet had basically said her back right leg, she would never be able to give birth. She would never be able to run. She had this disease or ailment or whatever it is, again, this issue in her back right leg. And Andrea said, yeah, if you could work on Maxie and help her with her leg, that'd be great. And I said, okay. So what was fascinating to me is that, I learned, on the second session I did with Maxie was running. I mean, Maxie was running. But what was interesting to me was that I couldn't help but notice that Andrea had fallen months before, and her right leg, she was limping and she couldn't use her right leg very well. And it's the same side of the body, right? And so I thought, what are the odds of that? And I could see in their energetic patterns, if I tuned into both of them, that they had this similar wounds, similar emotional wounds, that they came together. And I just thought, that's it. This is not a coincidence. I know it's not a coincidence. And so I'm not sure if that was the moment where I went, there's a soul contract, but it definitely raised my awareness. And then I started doing, not long after that, I don't know exactly when, I started doing case studies on working with animals and people together. And during those case study times, I started becoming aware of this, what I call a chat room bubble. And kind of above, when I'm connected to both of them, I could kind of see this little bubble with their higher selves, which is the part of our soul that remains on the other side, the part of us that's all knowing of our journey and what we came to do and how we came to do it, and the synchronicities and the contracts and all of that set up our higher self knows. And I started becoming aware of the animal and the person's higher self kind of included in the sessions that I would do with them. And there was just this knowing that they exuded of, yes, we came together to do this together. Yes, she's triggering him into this because he wants to release his anger because it's repressed from childhood or whatever the contract would be. And then it just took off from there. And I started realizing, oh my gosh, these are very intentional things that happen with our animals that we planned with them. So I think that's probably, I've kind of went off base a bit here, but that's probably the moment with Andrea and Maxie where I just started thinking, gosh, there's so many similarities in not only their personalities, but in their physical issues and in their energy, where I thought, this can't be a coincidence.
So before I go on to my next question, maybe that's part of my next question, is when you're saying, so I tap in and then I see what you said, they're higher souls, higher guides. Did you always have this ability to tap in and see that?
Oh no. I mean, it was what the year I turned 40, when through my mother's death, I had no spirituality, no belief systems around anything spiritual, no religious upbringing. Didn't ever think about what was on the other side. I didn't know. That just was never a conversation in my world up to that point. But through her transition, through her passing, I was around her a lot because it was a fairly early passing. She was in her early 60s, and she started talking to people on the other side. And they were coming to her to greet her. And of course, when she would mention, I was just talking to Darlene so-and-so, and I knew that Darlene wasn't, that she was had passed. And instead I became a student, and I said, oh yeah, how's Darlene doing? And what did she say? And I began to raise my awareness of, oh my gosh, there's this other realm, and there's this life after death. And then when I got, after she passed, 3 weeks later, my first pet passed. And I was really tormented by that because obviously I saw my mother maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Our animals were with them 24/7 a lot, right? So we're very emotionally tied up in that. It was a much more difficult passing for me. And I remember thinking, who's going to be greeting Kahlua? Kahlua was her name. And because my mother hated cats, so I thought she would be greeting them. And I thought, who's going to come around? And I asked Spirit, I said, let her come back and live with me. And that's exactly what happened initially. And all of a sudden, I felt her that night. She was very routine. And every single night, I would turn off the light, turn over, and then she would jump up on the bed out of nowhere and then walk around. And I would lift up the thing and the blanket. And that night, I turned off the light, I turned over, and all of a sudden, boom, on the bed. I felt it. And it went beep, beep. And I got up and I turned on the light because I had other cats at the time. And I was like, there's no cat here. Okay. You're going, okay, Tam. And then turn off the light again. And there she was. And all of a sudden, that started really growing my ability very quickly, very quickly. I had 0 to 60 awakening, I call it, because within a couple of months there, I was seeing into probably 10 different dimensions. And it was quite crazy. It really wasn't fun because we're really jumping ahead here, but all of my past lives, all of my childhood wounding that I had repressed, all of a sudden I could remember it all. And it was really, my mother's passing was the catapult to me having and maybe reawakening on some level to these gifts that of seeing energy and feeling energy in ways that I had repressed. I think I had it as a very young child, but it quickly got squashed. It got repressed.
Incredible. My mom transitioned 6 months ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And just like you, she was already halfway, or actually, I'd say towards the end, 90% in another on the other side. But and sometimes I had to pull her back to have a little word with me. And she transitioned, and 2 months later, my beloved 16-year-old golden retriever, Oliver, transitioned in my arms. Just 3 months ago, Ollie transitioned. No, 2 months ago. So why is it that parent, pet, and when my father also transitioned, another pet of mine transitioned within 2 months? What is this when a parent with
Yeah.
a pet?
It's common, actually, because even at that time with Clua, I had two other cats. They were 6 and 8. They both transitioned within 2 months of that. So I lost all three of them. And it's very common when we're going through these exponentially big growth periods of our awareness changing, because those animals and people agreed to get us to that point, and the contracts were completed. And so they transition. They transition at that time. And that doesn't mean, of course, if we complete our soul contracts that our animals are transitioning, because people do they have a lot of fear around that. And that's not necessarily the case at all. But in times where there are a lot of transitions and multiples, know that it's because the person is really growing and changing, and their beliefs have changed, and the animals and people had agreed to get them to that point. And so those are the big years for us. As we look back and reflect, maybe it's years later, you're going to see how this time period brought about so much growth for you.
You're right. I'm not the same person that I was last year. This has opened up huge, I would say, portals and doorways and huge knowledge and wisdom. One of them is you. That's, I by chance I came across what you were talking about, these soul contracts. So this leads me to my next question, which is, for those new to the idea, how would you define a soul contract between humans and their animal companions? And what differentiates it from how is it different from a simple emotional bond, this soul contract?
Yeah, well, I feel like an emotional bond is really the heart's response to love and safety and connection in the present moment. A soul contract is more of it's an agreement between two beings to expand their growth, their evolutionary journey. They sign up and agree on, just like we do with people, and we have these with animals as well. And it's important to note that we have these with animals because usually a lot of times people have a lot of trauma in their backgrounds, where bonding in this way to grow with people sometimes can be scary. at unconscious levels a lot of times. And so in come the animals and say, well, we're all still wanting to grow. We're all still wanting to heal. And so they take on this partnership role with us. And of course, we plan for these things, and especially for those who have had a lot of over controlling, backgrounds, a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse, then sometimes it can be difficult to find safe people for that part, for those parts of our psyche that are still really hurting. And so the animals, of course, are easy to let in our hearts, and they expand our hearts, and they open us up to this work. But they're wanting to partner with us to do this deep work as well. So we agree on these soul contracts in advance with souls usually that we know, because it's easy to identify each other then, and then it comes together quickly. And we do that intentionally to heal together, to grow together, to evolve together. It's really pretty fascinating.
So, for example, now I'm looking at my doggies, and I'm noticing, and I'm looking at them from a whole different angle because of you. And I'm realizing now, wait a second, I always thought there are angels. They've come to take care of us and give us this unconditional love. And whatever we are going through, they remind us and they help us heal. For example, I would say I have abandonment issues, and I look at my pets and I feel, oh, you love me, and you're still there for me. And with you being by my side, I will be able to heal, never realizing that they could be having their issues too. So I have this little bit, I have to say, of guilt because Oliver just transitioned 2 months ago. And I'm wondering, I was up at night wondering after I watched you for the third time. I said to Ollie, see, I don't have the abilities that you have, Tammy, but I do. It comes. And I feel they do speak to me, and I feel my mom is speaking to me. And I mean, it's bizarre, but I'm talking to Oliver and I say, Ollie, have I let you down? Ollie, I have relied so highly on you to be by my side and to love me and to not leave me alone. But Ollie, I didn't look at you that way. I didn't think you needed anything apart from being loved by me and nurtured and fed and walked and swim together. Ollie, I did not, it never occurred to me that there was a contract that I had to fulfill for you. So what happens when the pet has already transitioned, that little bit of guilt, will they come back to you to do that unfinished work, or what?
Well, sometimes their part of the contract is to serve you and to help you awaken to something. So I don't think there's anything unfinished in his life, or he would not have transitioned. I think you probably got to where you needed to be with your contracts. And there's so many different types of contracts that you could have. So he would never want you to feel guilty about anything. Everything unfolded just as it should. He taught you love and safety, and that you're enough, in ways that no one else could have. I mean, so you can just honor him by continuing to go deeper into the abandonment wound and then revealing it and healing it. And then he gets all these high fives on the other side of saying, look what I did. And we have a chance to honor them in that way because they're wanting to serve us. Of course, we're serving them too, but oftentimes something they're exhibiting, once we take our ownership for our inner work around that same issue, theirs just heals. All of a sudden, they're fine with it.
Right, right. Well, you know what? Thank you for that, Tammy. I really needed to hear that. So,
Good.
Tammy, many people struggle with skepticism around soul contracts or reincarnation. How do you invite openness without dismissing the critical thinking?
Well, you have to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And people learn through experience. And 26 years ago, if somebody said anything about reincarnation to me or soul contracts, I probably would have rolled my eyes and thought, this person's nuts.
Yeah.
So, but yet I had experiences that changed that for me. But what in it was that big year, of course, and because I was being shown my past lives, and what was fascinating to me about that part of it anyway, of that year, was that it made sense all of a sudden for what my beliefs were, what my fears were, I can remember being shown this big yellow house I lived in somewhere in Europe. I had paintings of big yellow houses in my house, right, on the wall, and certain fears that I had. When you can be shown past lives where um, you died by starvation several times, and you feel like you're overeating all the time, you can have some compassion with yourself, because it's like, oh, well, if I've starved to death and not had enough food, that might be what's behind this. So can I find love for myself instead of judging myself? I can remember I always loved, I still do, of course, string music, any type of violin, cello, whatever, and took violin lessons. And I was shown a past life of being a violinist. And so, I mean, to me, those types of things just it brought me peace of mind, knowing that the soul is everlasting, knowing that it's all of these past lives that made me who I am. And on some level, we're remembering all of that. All of our experiences come together and make us who we are, these unique, beautiful beings that are different than everyone else because of our experiences. So I just say, for me, that it brought relief knowing that the soul is everlasting, to understand the soul's journey is really a way to have far less suffering, the way that I view it. And so you meet people where they are. And if they don't have experiences where perhaps they don't believe that, that's okay. Who are we to judge? And it's, I'm fine with that. I think it's really important to always get unattached to other people's believing the same thing that we do. I'm okay with them not believing anything because they haven't had my experiences, and I haven't walked in their shoes either. So that's part of it, that we get to always look and imagine what someone else's journey might be, because that's what formulates their beliefs.
I like what you said, meet them where they are. So when you were having all these experiences of your past lives coming, flooding at you, Tammy, was that happening in dreams? Were you dreaming
Oh,
them?
no. It was happening in real time. I could just see it energetically. They were showing me everyone that I killed, I mean, it was a pretty crazy time. That's only occasionally where something might come to me, meditation around a past life that I'm working through right now, that's where it originated or whatever. And certainly
No, go ahead. Sorry.
when I'm connected to clients, sometimes I'll be shown past lives of them in the animal or what form they were in. And as far as how it correlates to what they're trying to heal today, because that's what we're ultimately here to do, not be wowed by something from our past. We're trying to grow. And so sometimes there is a piece of the puzzle in one of these past lives that will help us to have less suffering and more wellness.
That's incredible. As you're telling me this, I mean, I'm envisioning you having all these things, like the paintings and everything coming through you. How that must have felt. I can't imagine, because I've not experienced that. I've not. I have dreams, but not, well, not to the extent you're talking about, but I guess because you were open to it and it was coming, you were ready.
I had no boundaries. I don't know. I think it was all part of my plan for sure, but I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy, but I've always been the personality of just jump in the water and figure out how to swim.
Very brave.
Well, I don't know if that's brave, but that seems to be kind of where, how I learn a lot of times. I'm trying to kind of rein that in a bit so that it's not so harsh, instead of
Mhm.
going from 0 to 60. But there was so much, it was a very difficult time. It was a difficult time that,
Can you the time frame, how long did that go on for? A year, 6 months, 3 months?
yeah, the hardest part of it was probably, about 6 to 9 months, until I found a practitioner that did energy work,
Mm-hmm.
and that there was nothing that I said to her that surprised her because she'd gone through something similar.
Mm-hmm.
And then things really started shifting. And then I found my people. I started finding more people who had similar beliefs, which, it's like anything. When you're pregnant, you see pregnant people everywhere. All of a sudden, I started being connected to all these people who had very similar beliefs, and I became a student to everything. It was pretty amazing.
Well, I think I'm on my way to finding my people right now because I'm having little bits of these experiences in my dreams. And look at you sitting across from me in such a short span of time. Um, In your teachings, you often describe animals as mirroring emotional wounds in humans. How can a companion animal reflect our inner state without projecting human emotions onto them? Like, could you give us an example of the animal projecting our inner state, just so we can understand that in context. Just
Sure.
Mhm.
Got a lot of those. Because, well, it could be anything from, um, in animals, if you have a dog that has separation anxiety,
Mhm.
you can bet that that's mirroring that you have abandonment
Mhm.
unhealed. So there's
Oh.
that. If or the same thing when, like, if the animal is very clingy or very needy or anything, they're going to be mirroring your abandonment wound. But then they will also, as far as mirroring an inner state of us, they will also mirror what we're repressing, and they'll try to help us. Animals are responding to energy. They're not this master manipulator of, oh, she's thinking this, I need to do this. It's more like they're responding to your energy field. And so, if you're feeling insecure about something, they all of a sudden might act very insecure. It's very interesting. And then they'll also, let's say you're repressing anger that you don't even realize you're repressing because you were taught very early that you couldn't express it without being judged or hit or something. So it went into the vault within, but yet your animal is sensing it in there, and they will automatically either be reactive. They might be the ones that are trying to get at the other dogs on the walks. And it's like, why is this animal doing
Yes.
this? And
Yes.
a lot of times it's because they're picking up on what you're really thinking but not expressing, and or protecting some part of yourself, and or they're trying to do things and trigger you. Again, they're just responding to energy, but their actions are going to trigger you into these emotions that are repressed. So if an animal is triggering you into being very angry, then you
Mhm.
can bet that you've got repressed anger that's longing to be free, or the animal, you would not have called that in. If you have really porous boundaries because you've had a lot of invasiveness, if you've had a lot of over controlling parent issues or just abuse or anything, these are the people that have porous boundaries. These are the people that get bitten more. That you won't get bitten if you have strong energetic boundaries. It's impossible. So it's just, I could go on and on and on. There'd be so many examples. Yeah, but that's basically how I'd
Thank
answer your question.
Thank you for that, Tammy. What role does karma or pre-birth planning play in the animal-human connection? Is it purposeful or, co-creative? So when we are up there, when we are, yeah, how, just a little tidbit. I know it's a deep question, but maybe just to make us here understand how that sort of contract, where does that happen?
Yeah, well, it's both purposeful and co-creative. for sure, because before incarnating, souls will coordinate the relationships through their support, through their mutual evolution. So once they awaken to the higher purpose of their collaborative partnership, and it really is a collaborative partnership, then they can become co-creators. And everything shifts and gets them out of the reactivity into what's our higher purpose together. What is my animal trying to tell me? So it kind of gets you out of that responding or trying to fix them into, okay, what's the higher purpose of their actions and their issues? And then how can we co-create now that I consciously know we're doing this? How can we not only heal ourselves, how can we be examples for others as well and help the collective consciousness by raising our vibration? Then we're co-creating a world that we all want to live in through this spiritual partnership.
Correct. Hmm. Well, I'm planning to, after this in the evening, I'm going to take all my 6 doggies and I'm going down to the cafe. They sit with me and I'm going to have a conversation with them. I'm like, okay, you, what contract do we have? What do you want me to do for you? I'm literally going to look at them in a whole different way. How can I serve you now? Tell me this. So, Tammy, can you walk us a little through with what happens in a tandem healing session, like a little overview what happens in that? What's it like? A
Yeah,
tandem
well, I can
healing.
give you some examples for what types of things happen. I connect formally to both the person and the animal together, and so I have found that the energy then goes to what they came together to heal together, because they're healing sessions. And so sometimes there's energy they're carrying for each other that needs to get righted and go back to the other being, because we do that unconsciously from wanting the other one not to suffer. And we think when they're not suffering, I won't suffer, but it never quite works out that way. We need to carry our own stuff and deal with it, or we stop evolving. If we continue to take other suffering from them, then they don't get to evolve. We just get to feel better because they're not suffering. That's it. So we don't want that.
Ah,
We want to write the energy and not need to be needed. And then sometimes I'll see what's called energetic codependency cords that are connected between the beings. Sometimes those will get released. There's healthy cords as well, energetic cords like through the heart. Sometimes I'll see those get purified and cleansed, and some of these other cords will get detached whenever they're ready for it. It's not what happens during the sessions is certainly not up to me. It's up to the higher selves of the beings that I'm connected with. But if I'm trying to think if, just so there's just a cleansing that the energy is going to go to whatever emotional wounds or physical wounds or whatever contracts they've signed up to do together. It's going to organically go to help to get to the origin of what's preventing them from reaching wellness or abundance or whatever it is that they came together to do.
wow. So, for example, if someone, I don't know anyone right now, so it's just hypothetically. If someone's going through cancer, of course I know someone who's going through cancer, most of us do, but not with a pet around. And let's say that person has a pet. I've heard it said that the pet will try and help you with your cancer and sometimes take it on. Have you heard of that, where that happens?
It does happen, yes. Absolutely, they'll do that. Of course. And if we could consciously, we would do it for them probably too when they're in the middle of it. It just happens. And I'm not sure if hospice something that's worldwide. Is that a term you're familiar with, and or that they have hospice workers over there?
It is not so
Oh,
known
okay.
for pets in Asia, and therefore I had a beautiful chat with Gail Pope 2 days ago, and she guided me, which means all of us here in Asia about hospice because that's something that is not spoken about here. It's okay,
Ah,
how much time you have a terminal
okay.
diagnosis, how much time? Euthanasia. But hospice is not widely spoken here. And you know Gail Pope, right?
Yes,
With Night
yes,
Haven.
and yes, and hospice workers. There are people, two-legged people, who are hospice workers all over,
Yes.
and they are magical. And
Oh,
yet, there's very well known because they help people through their final months and transitions, and they are angels in bodies for sure. And often, why I asked you that was often we will hear about hospice workers getting the same disease of the person they were caring for. And
hmm.
so that happened, this energy transference. And it happened when my mother died as well for me. And that I was in when she said that it was time for her to go. And my father chose to have her go to a hospice center to pass instead of stay at home. I rode in the ambulance, even though it wasn't an emergency ambulance over there. And that moment I had a thought to her of, I wish I could take away her pain. And then all of a sudden, after she passed, I started developing all of her physical issues that I had never had before in my life. And so this is energy transference. And yes, animals do this. Of course, they do this for us. And so, again, they're serving us. And so, if you know of that situation, just make sure that the animal has a way or someone that does energy work, or they can run outside, a way to move out the energy, to help them move out the energy for what they're absorbing. And I work with a lot of elder animals, just helping them to stay clearer because they are, some of them, you try to tell them, don't take that on. They're like, this is my mom. This is what I want to do. And so it's just finding a way to help them to release that energy.
Right. How has your understanding of the animal human soul contracts evolved over the 25 plus years of your practice? And what surprises you most now compared to when you began 25 years ago? Give us something that surprises you.
Well, I'm trying to think here. Well, my understanding has evolved from the perspective that the soul contracts they just blow my mind. I mean, it's just so meaningful, and high vibration to really learn that our souls are doing this for each other and that we have come together to get conscious and co-create together. And this accelerates the souls in ways that I could have never predicted when I first started doing this work 25 years ago. I knew that they came together to heal together. But I mean, but it just continues to change and surprise me with the depths with what our animals are willing to do for us and all that they are doing. I mean, these domesticated animals are on the front lines of the animal kingdom's work to help humanity to evolve and to heal. And what they're willing to do for us is just it's incredible. I mean, it moves me so much. It opens my heart when I think about what these animals do for people. And most of the time, they're very unaware. The people are very unaware at really all the animals do. And they just think, oh, they love me and oh, they're always there for me. But no, they're taking away, like you said, they're taking away and they're absorbing your physical ailments and your pain and helping you to evolve. And I think it continues to surprise me, the precision of the mirroring that happens. It's pretty incredible how the depth of the animals spiritual awareness, I guess you could say, and the way that these relationships continue to expand and evolve once they both, or once the person awakens to the higher purpose of the relationship. So I am certainly not bored with it. They're forever teaching me. Every session I do, I learn something more about us, about them.
Yeah. I always felt I have always learned so much from my pets. And if you had asked me this question, what have you seen in the last 25 years? Because I live here in Hong Kong since 37 years now, but I grew up in the Caribbean and I grew up with pets all around me because we had a yard. The Caribbean is totally different. But here we have these small apartments. But in the last, I would say not even 25, I would say in the last 10 years, I have seen all around China, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Thailand, so many adults adopting or acquiring their pets, and they love their pets. They're not yet there completely with how to really take care of them because they humanize them so much and dress them up, but the love is there. And I'm seeing this forward shift of humanity. I'm becoming aware of a shift in consciousness because of all this. And I'm so happy to see this change. And that's why I said we've got to do something because I know that the people here still don't realize to what extent pets are to you and what you are to the pet. And it's not just, oh, this is my kid and I'm going to buy this toy. There's more. And they're realizing all this thing about sentient beings. And Tammy, last question. Looking ahead, what role do you think collective animal human soul partnerships might play in broader cultural or planetary healing? I know you've said it in different ways, but let's say your grand message here. What do you think? You want me to
Yeah.
repeat?
So, I mean, as more people awaken to the soul level purpose of their relationships with animals, we begin to heal not just individually, but collectively. So these partnerships expand our levels of empathy and acceptance, and um, they elevate consciousness, don't they? I mean, they reconnect us to our hearts and what truly matters. And in many, many, many ways, animals are helping humanity remember who we truly are. And that remembrance is what I believe will ultimately heal the planet.
I think so too, Tammy. It will.
Yeah.
I am so hopeful. I am I am so positive because we have them and thank God for them and all, even your pets, even the elephants out there, all the wildlife, the birds, the trees, all the living beings. They're just waiting for us to kind of wake up. And we
Yeah.
are. We are.
Yeah. We
Tammy,
are.
thank you so much for this. I You
Thank
must be
you.
exhausted, but I thank you and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And we all here in Asia, thank you too for giving us your time. You have a wonderful, wonderful course that's coming out in less than, I think, in about less than 2 weeks. So we are going to explain at the end, we're going to explain what this course is about and so that everyone can join this course. I've already signed up for it. It is going to
Oh,
be
wonderful.
so educational for me because I kind of thought I knew a lot, but
Right.
this is something that has, like you said, literally you took the words out of my mouth, has blown my mind. I'm having a conference, a real serious conference with my pets tonight, and
They'll be
thank
talking
you.
to you. They love that you get messages from them in your dreams, and everyone gets messages in different ways.
Yes, yes. And so we are going to everyone at Nurture Your Pet or who's watching now. Um, I will put all the links here and please look at Tammy's course that's being launched pretty soon. And we will tell you how to sign up for that. There will be a link, Tammy's link, and her wonderful books. And there's also more things that she offers, which we will also put here on this website. Tammy, thank you so much and have a wonderful day in Georgia. Well, night. Sleep well, sleep restful in this
Thank you.
snowy night that's
And thank
coming.
you for your sacred service in the world.
Thank you, Tammy.